Sure, living in a utopian world would be an ideal situation, but we live in a world that's a mix of good and bad, and that's just real life. Anything beyond this in either direction is a figment of someone's imagination. An imaginary world where the worst happens, or a dystopian world, has no real reason or logic. A place where everything goes wrong or is wrong is just a cinematic representation of a world seen from the lens of curiosity and faith that things will improve. It's no wonder these dystopian shows are so popular, because they tickle a little part of our brain that's just curious about those things. So here's a listing of our top-ranked dystopian TV shows of all time. Before we get into the list though, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to the channel. It's a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Number 1. The Handmaid's Tale, 2017 to 2025. The Handmaid's Tale is based on a novel by Margaret Atwood, which is themed about the subjugation of women. The story is set in the Republic of Gilead, run by religiously fanatic people who are overcome by power and greed. They create a new social class for women known as handmaids. These women, in their biological prime, are non-Christians, homosexuals, divorcees, unwed mothers, and prostitutes. Handmaids are employed in the homes of the ruling party. They are ceremonially subjected to sexual intercourse by the man of the house in the presence of his wife to get an heir. Handmaids are the answer to the growing infertility due to STDs and pollution. As per the laws of Gilead, women have limited rights. They can't be literate or earn money. The handmaids wear standard pre-decided clothing, a red dress with a red cloak, a coif, brown boots, and a large bonnet to hide their faces from others. Each handmaid's name is derived from the man they work for, i.e. the protagonist, June Osborne, who works for Fred, is addressed as of Fred. After they're done with one home, they move to another elite family. June's goal is to reunite with her husband and young daughter, from whom she was separated while escaping to Canada. She's subjected to blackmail and torture as she performs her servile duties in quietude until she transforms into a force to be reckoned with in a bid to bring down the theocracy. Her life's dotted with villains, beginning with her master Fred's constant assault, the mean Aunt Lydia who keeps handmaids like her in line, and Serena Joy, Fred's wife, whose only focus is to get June pregnant, even if that means making her engage with other men to hide her husband's impotence. The Handmaid's Tale makes it to this list for its blatant presentation of women, which feels like the author is mocking the real world, reminding us that women aren't far away from characters like June. It can really leave you thinking. The show was renewed for Season 6, which will be its final season, which is due to air in 2025. Number 2. Black Mirror, 2016 to present. Black Mirror is an episodic anthology series created for British television by Charlie Brooker, and it's themed on moralistic situations. It explores a dystopian world in each episode, like a futurist representation laced with science and technology. Every plot tackles an unusual predicament faced by the characters. For instance, in the episode titled National Anthem, the British PM is asked to have intercourse with a pig on live TV if he wants the kidnapped member of the royal family to be freed. Rules in these dystopian setups are very similar to the real world. In every episode, the lead character must overcome his or her shortcomings to understand the extent of the problem. In the episode Hated in the Nation, Detective Karen Park feels helpless when she tries to deactivate the attack by ADIs, automated drone insects, that ends up killing thousands. Call it technological negligence on the character's part, but one rarely sees triumph at the end of any Black Mirror episode. The antagonist in each episode is usually technology, which poses a twisted problem to the protagonist that must be overcome. Black Mirror stands out on this list due to its bizarre plots that constantly remind humankind that technology is slowly taking over our lives. We've become slaves to it. Can we save the world from its impact? This series makes you more aware of the impossible in its unreal speculative narrative. Black Mirror has aired 27 episodes to date, along with one special, and it's currently due to air its 7th season in 2025. Number 3. The Last of Us, 2023 to present. The Last of Us is a thrilling tale of a post-apocalyptic world adapted from the award-winning PlayStation video game. It's a world set 2 decades after a deadly virus infected the world. Cordyceps is a fungal infection that turns people into zombie-like creatures. The aftermath is widespread disruption and the degradation of society. The world faces extinction filled with infected humans waiting to feast on the surviving lot. Season 1 is about a man named Joel who needs to transport a young, infected but unaffected girl named Ellie to the Fireflies who can work on her to find a cure. They set out in a world against all odds, keeping in mind 3 simple rules set by the protagonist Joel. One shouldn't reveal one's history to anyone, one shouldn't reveal any details about one's condition, and, of course, obey whatever Joel says. Joel starts off as a reluctant traveler due to the grief of losing his daughter and wife, but eventually becomes close to Ellie and saves her from the antagonist, David, the leader of the cannibalistic survivors. The entire show is themed on grief and processing that emotion. What makes this show so great and memorable is the fact that it stays true to its fan following of the video game and at the same time attracts more followers due to the sensitive handling of human relationships and what comes with it, survival and betrayal. Joel's poignancy, coupled with his dutiful virtue, makes this an intense watch. The show has been renewed for a second season where the plot will be set 5 years ahead of Season 1. Season 2 is set to release in April 2025. Number 4. Severance. Severance is a psychological thriller created by Dan Erickson and directed by Ben Stiller. It's about a biotech company working on covert projects that require their employees to maintain top secrecy. Since humans make mistakes, the company insists on a process called severance, making their employees develop a flexible memory erase function. The rule of this function is that it erases the memory of the employee's personal life while they're at work, Luman Industries, and when they step outside, it erases the memory of their work life, making them split personalities. The split personalities, better termed as innie and outie, give the protagonist and the supporting cast a reason to switch off and on, but at the same time, the protagonist must deal with the complexities that come with the effects of severance on him and his co-workers. The effects can be as bad as rebelliousness. It's themed on the impact of a capitalistic world. Severance makes it onto our list of top shows as it packages a banal corporate life into something absurd and funny. It's unimaginably creative, visual, and innovative. At times, the narrative seems like a farcical comedy in its take on working individuals. Season 1 premiered in 2022, and Season 2 premiered in January 2025. Number 5. Snowpiercer, 2020 to 2024. Snowpiercer is a post-apocalyptic thriller based on a film of the same name by Bong Joon-ho and a French graphic novel, Le Transpersonnage, which is themed around classism, social disparity, and politics. The story is set in a world 7 years after it suffered a catastrophe that froze it. An eccentric billionaire named Wilford built a train called Snowpiercer that moves in perpetuity around the globe, picking up surviving humans so that they don't freeze to death. The constant movement of the train at certain speeds keeps the passengers warm. The rules of the Snowpiercer are that people who have bought tickets to the train will be given preferential treatment in all facilities. Stowaways and ticketless passengers, known as tailies, will be made to travel in third class and get minimal facilities. The protagonist, Melanie Cavill, the head engineer who designed the train, is a strong personality who takes over the reins of the train after she learns of antagonist Wilford's vile intentions. She abandons him and assumes he's dead. Her character is laced with guilt, which could be leveraged at any time, and this is done in the series. She also faces the intense grief of being separated from her daughter, Alex. The first antagonist is the evil Wilford, who shows up alive and wants to get control of Snowpiercer, and the second is Andre Layton, a homicide detective who is eventually appointed to solve a series of murders, but instead goes against Melanie to gain control of the train. It's a story of survival and who will make it to that corner of the world that still has hopes of habitation, New Eden. This show makes it onto our list due to its unique representation of a clock ticking for survival against a running train. Who will survive the elite class versus the masses war makes it a thrilling watch. The show premiered in May 2020 and the final season premiered in July 2024. Number 6. Station 11, 2021. Station 11 is a post-apocalyptic miniseries developed by Patrick Somerville. It's based on a novel by Emily St. John Mandel. The story is themed around art and its value to sustain the world. The plot is about a traveling art company called the Traveling Symphony, where survivors of a pandemic that occurred 20 years ago. They travel performing Shakespearean plays to make a living until they face a cult group ruled by the Prophet. The protagonist, Kristen, who survived the pandemic, struggles to string together a graphic novel titled Dr. 11 that was given to her by a co-actor, Arthur, minutes before his death and the outbreak of the pandemic. Kristen, who thought she was the only one to own the comic, is shocked to know that the Prophet had access to it too. The self-proclaimed Prophet leads a group of survivors, making them believe he is their savior. Kristen's constant strife to learn more about the comic reveals it was a space station that parallels her life and the others with her. What makes this show great is the reference to a comic that was written pre-pandemic and the post-pandemic similarities in the protagonist's life and the people in her life. It's representative of the Earth's movement in space and how everyone is nothing but part of space traveling through time. The show premiered in December 2021 and ended in January 2022. Number 7. Altered Carbon, 2018. Altered Carbon is a cyber-based TV series based on the novel of the same name written by Richard K. Morgan. The story is set in a futuristic world in 2084 where human consciousness is stored digitally, cortical stack, and embedded in the vertebrae of the spine, letting humans overcome death by transplanting their spine-stacked consciousness, or sleeves, into new bodies. The story is themed around the concept of immortality. As per the rules of this world, only the elite, known as meths, are eligible to change their bodies. The protagonist is Takeshi Kovac, the only surviving soldier of the rebel group Envoys, whose stack is removed from prison so that the 300-year-old wealthiest meth Bancroft can hire him to solve his own murder. If Takeshi solved Bancroft's murder, he would be granted life. The show makes it to the best show list because of the conundrum we call life and its unique portrayal of a dystopian world where death has been overcome, yet fear lingers. Especially Bancroft's fear of knowing who his enemy is. The show's visual representation of a futuristic world makes it a must-watch. The show premiered in July 2018 and the second and final season premiered in March 2020. Number 8. The 100, 2014. The 100 is a post-apocalyptic sci-fi developed by Jason Rothenberg and inspired by the young adult novel series written by Cass Morgan. The story is set 100 years after Earth was destroyed due to a nuclear explosion eradicating human life. Thousands of survivors live in a space station called Ark, but due to dwindling life support systems, they sent 100 of their juveniles back to Earth to see if it was habitable. The rule on Earth is now set by the survivors, the Grounders, and the Reapers, who have become cannibals thanks to the Mountain Men. The protagonists, Clark and Bellamy of the 100, lead them through the atrocities of Earth life and the battle-loving Grounders. The antagonistic Mountain Men find that the 100 is their lifeline to survival since they have advanced bone marrow. The other antagonist is Pike, who takes over the Ark and commits a blunder by waging war with the Grounders. The show is themed around survival, deceit, and betrayal. The 100 makes it onto our list due to its incredible premise, a realistic look at what the Earth would look like post-extinction, the concept of living in a space colony, and the need to save the 100 juveniles, the future and the fight for survival against unknown enemies with unreal wants. The show premiered in March 2019 and ran for 7 seasons, and the final season ended in September 2020. Number 9. Westworld, 2016. Westworld is a post-apocalyptic western created by Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy based on a 1973 film of the same name and its sequel, Future World. The show is set in the 2050s where Delos Inc. runs a Wild West-themed park. The park has android hosts programmed to fulfill every desire of a visiting guest, whether it's materialistic or sexual. The rules of this park don't allow the humanoids to harm their guests by asking them of the world. The story later moves to the mid-21st century and takes a sharp conflicting turn when antagonist Dr. Robert Ford introduces an update to the humanoid programming system, causing the protagonist, Dolores Abernathy, and the local Madame Maeve to become sentient. The protagonist fights her erratic behavior and fights with Dr. Ford for messing her up. She needs to escape to a place where she's inaccessible to humans. The antagonist seems invincible since he's in complete control of the hosts. The show is themed around identity crisis, manipulation, and deceit against the dystopian backdrop of an amusement park. Westworld is considered one of the best conceived shows for its unique milieu and groundbreaking storytelling, creating humanoid characters. The show makes you think about human desire and the lengths people go to for it. The show premiered in October 2016 and ended in March 2020 after running for 4 seasons. Number 10. Utopia, A cult comic named Utopia groups its fans with dangerous tasks, telling them the world is in danger. The show was created by Gillian Flynn and is based on the original 2013 British series. Per the rules set by the comic's architect, the fans set out to prevent global disasters by making people aware of the danger and convincing them to take the vaccine to save themselves. The protagonist, who has been servile, following all orders and intends to save the world, realizes that the antagonist has tricked them. Once the vaccine is injected, unbeknownst to the comic fans, the population becomes sterile, bringing down the numbers from billions to millions, creating a scenario of abundance. The show is themed around betrayal and deceit. How will they set the world back to normal? Utopia is on this list due to its fascinating storyline that survives on the fear psychosis of humans and the intense gratification one gets by discovering the unknown, in this case, global disaster. The show premiered in September 2020 and ended in November 2020. Number 11, Silo, 2023. Silo is an American sci-fi fictional drama created by Graham Yost based on the trilogy films Wool, Shift, and Dust. It's about a group of 10,000 individuals who live in a silo in homes built 144 stories underground. Rules, also known as the pact of this community, are: number 1, the outside world is deathly and toxic. Number 2, anyone who wishes to go outside must be sent there to wipe their external sensors with a wool cloth. Number 3, mechanized travel is forbidden within the silo, so residents stick to their levels. 4, only porters travel through the levels for delivering messages and supplies. And 5, knowledge of the outside world is restricted. The sheriff and protagonist, Juliet, is out to find the truth about the silo and is in a conflicting position to safeguard it, but also unravel the truth. She works with Lucas, who helps her reinforce her belief to continue with an investigation about the confinement and dodge the antagonist Robert, the head of security. The show is themed around fear and the ability to break free and think. What's special about Silo is its representation of society in the most regressive manner, restricting a community's ability to think and function. In many ways, it's the world we live in today, a bubble of social media and deepfakes. The show premiered on Apple TV Plus in May 2023 and the second season in November 2024. The show has been renewed for a third and fourth, as well as final season.
Don't look at it!
Number 12, Raised by Wolves, 2020. Raised by Wolves is an American sci-fi drama series set in the 22nd century and created by Aaron Guzikowski. It follows the story of two androids who play father and mother to human children on Kepler-22 since Earth was destroyed due to war. The rules that govern their existence depend on who follows what religion, like the Mithraic group believes in the god Sol as the light source. The leaders of the faction wear sun pendants while the soldiers wear sun emblems on their clothing. The Mithraics consider all non-believers of their god as impure. The other group is known as the atheists, who believe in science and not deities. They think that a quantum computer was their creator. The religious difference in these groups leads to conflict. The protagonist of the show is Mother, who needs to keep the unit together by following the atheistic rule, but often turns on the meaner side by forcing her will. Sue is also a character who, along with her partner, moves as impersonators to the Mithraic side, but she loses her partner Caleb to the Mithraic religion and is now left to mend her ship. The antagonists in the show are the most likable people who become evil to safeguard their religion. The show is themed around religiosity, faith, and belief. Raised by Wolves has a unique premise which makes it an iconic show. It's also a masterclass in parenting if one were to see the universe from a macro perspective, trying to school their children from staying away from the truth. The show premiered on HBO Max in February 2020 and ended with Season 2 in February 2022. Number 13, The Man in the High Castle, 2015. The Man in the High Castle is a fictional alternate history series that shows a parallel universe during World War II wherein only two empires, Axis powers, exist. The Nazi German Reich ruling over Europe and Africa, and the Japanese Reich ruling over Asia and North America. Rules of this universe remain to adapt the culture followed by its dictators, Adolf Hitler and the Emperor of Japan. Communication from the outside world in the form of newsreels from The Man in the High Castle starts to make the people know the real truth about World War II, one of them being the existence of the American resistance. protagonist Juliana Crane, residing in San Francisco under the Japanese Empire, starts to rebel when she learns the truth and the reality of the American resistance. She goes in search of the resistance along with her boyfriend Frank. The first antagonist is Chief Inspector Takeshi Kido of the Japanese military in North America, who's ruthless and keeps an eye out for rebels. The second antagonist is American-born John Smith, who holds a high rank in the Nazi German military, who's investigating the American resistance. The show is themed around dictatorship, social classes, and power struggles. The show's premise makes it one of the best thought-out historical dramas where the world is perceived under a false lens, making the villains the rulers and the heroes the underdogs, the American resistance. The unique narrative gives us a viewpoint that we could never have seen in our own worst nightmares. Imagine Germans ruling over half the world. The show premiered in January 2015 on Amazon Prime and ran for 4 seasons. The final season premiered in November 2019. Number 14. Years and Years. 2019. Years and Years is a 6-part sci-fi miniseries written by Russell E. Davies between 2019 and 2034. The plot revolves around the Leons family, whose lives converge on one night in 2019, and the plot races ahead to 15 years later, impacting their lives. The rules of this imaginary world, where a family faces hardships due to the changing global affairs, depends on Britain's changing economic and leadership situation. For instance, Trump won the re-election and bananas became extinct in 2028. The protagonist, Vivienne Rook, is a politician whose opinion about global politics is bizarre and profane, making her an anti-hero. The impact of her comments on the Israel-Palestinian war triggers a spate of economic disasters, such as flooding of refugees, a banking crisis, and so on. The show is themed around political supremacy and the impact it has on the proletariat. What makes this show special is its premise of taking past political scenarios and seeing them through to their logical conclusion. Who will be president? Who will fight whom? How a country gets affected by a rookie politician's controversial comments makes this a funny watch. The show premiered on BBC One in May 2019 and on HBO in June 2019. Number 15. The Walking Dead, 2010. The Walking Dead is a post-apocalyptic horror series developed by Frank Darabont based on the comic book series of the same name. The story is about a world infested with zombies, known as walkers, who are hunting for human survivors to feast on them. Due to the widespread attack of zombies, humans have made a list of rules to dodge them. Number 1, they're attracted to noise. Number 2, they're attracted to the scent of humans. Number 3, anyone bitten by a walker will become a walker. Number 4, zombies can be destroyed only if their brains are damaged or if they're burnt down. The sheriff's deputy, Rick Grimes, recovers from a comatose condition and realizes the state of the world around him. He decides to lead the human survivors against the walkers and other cruel humans. Through the show's 11 seasons, there have been many antagonists such as Negan, Terminus, wolves, claimers, and so on, all of whom had one purpose: to destroy humankind. The show is themed around fear and survival. The Walking Dead makes it onto this list for its in-depth world of zombies versus humans. Most zombie-based content has been caricaturist portrayals of mass attacks against humans. Still, The Walking Dead takes the zombie world several notches up, making it a horrific and thrilling watch. The show premiered in October 2010 and ran for 11 seasons. It ended in November 2022. Marvelous verdict! Well, that was our list of the top 15 dystopian shows, and we hope it was worth the watch. Did we miss your favorite dystopian show, or is there one you'd like to hear about more in depth? Let us know in the comments down below. We're always looking for new ideas for videos. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Otherwise, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.